The first nights after she booted me out, I slept in the van I used to drive between sites. Rain drummed on the metal like impatient fingers. My legs were numb, but my chest burned for both of us. I replayed that goodbye again and again, her dry eyes, the clinical tilt of her head. I had become a problem to be suavely disposed of. I called her once. Number blocked. The silence settled around me then, not weakness, but a suspended calm before some storm I hadn't yet named. Before the wreck I ran a construction firm. Not massive, but steady and profitable. I managed the books, she handled the clients. Everyone called us a perfect pair. Later it became clear why she'd always been so eager to help. I kept backups. Always did. Never keep everything in one place, lesson learned early. While she thought she'd stripped me bare, I still had a few quiet accounts, small, clean, untraceable. I'd opened them years ago for emergencies. Apparently this qualified. 2 weeks of self-pity slid into 2 weeks of plan. My wheelchair turned into an operations chair. I bought a battered laptop, a prepaid SEM, and took a tiny studio downtown, the kind that stank of fresh paint and the hollow hope of reinvention. Shame and hunger lived there together. Revenge wasn't the first draft. At first I only wanted to see her face again, to understand how love could curdle so fast. Then I saw them, her and my project manager, the man I had hired, trained, and trusted. They were at the old Italian where we used to go, laughing over a bottle I once insisted on. His hand on her knee, her expression unstartled. The moment my pity died, something colder slotted in. I started to collect every transfer, every invoice, every message I could reclaim. It didn't take long. She'd been siphoning company funds for months before the accident. And who'd approved the payments? Me. Or rather, my signature, faked. The more I turned stones, the uglier the nest under them became. The crash wasn't random. The brakes on my truck hadn't simply failed. Someone had sabotaged the lines. And who knew I would be driving that morning? Her, and her brother fared. The picture sharpened. I moved like a quiet illness. I hired a PI with cash wired from one of those hidden accounts. No official paper trail. Within weeks I had photographs, receipts, grainy video, fared selling company parts at the yard, my project manager wiring sums offshore, her handwriting on contracts that bore my name. They believed me a ruin. They forgot who'd built the scaffolding that held their schemes. I re-registered the business under a new name using an old partner's documents and slowly guided the remaining honest clients over. Then I found a lawyer, not loud, but precise, the kind who files sealed motions and whispers in the right ears. We put everything in motion without fanfare. By the time the walls started closing in for them, it was already a trap. When the police came I watched from 2 blocks away. She stood framed in our doorway, a robe clinging to her like some absurd crown. Confusion rode her face first, then a slow, spreading panic. They carted off laptops, phones, the Mercedes she'd started driving. Her brothers yelled, her lover sputtered. Evidence is a dull, merciless thing. They didn't know I was watching. They didn't know the man in the parked van, hands folded on the wheel, was the man they'd thought ruined 3 months ago. 2 weeks later she found me where we used to sit on Sundays, a small cafe with cracked tiles and good coffee. Her hair was a mess, her face puffy with crying. She slid into the seat opposite without asking. "You did this," she said, and the accusation broke like a brittle twig. I stirred my coffee, feeling steadier than I knew how to be. "I did nothing." "You started this," I said. Her fingers trembled on the cup. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "No," I cut in. "You made choices." The cafe hummed around us, people reading, couples arguing softly, normal life as her world unspooled. "I loved you," she sighed. I leaned in until the sounds of the room softened. "You loved what I provided," I said. I slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photocopies, her admissions, bank wires, forged documents. "All of this goes public tomorrow," I said quietly. "Unless you sign." She took the second stack. Property transfer forms. Business deeds. Everything she stole put back in my name. Her hand shook, but she signed. When she looked up, the glossy defiance was gone, Only fear and a dim, bewildered sorrow remained. "Is that enough for you?" she asked. I allowed myself a small smile. "Not enough," I admitted. "But fair." She left then, without glancing back. I watched her vanish into the crowd, swallowed by the same indifferent sea she'd once waded through without a second thought. She had believed she'd cast off a broken man. She didn't understand she'd forged one with nothing left to lose. The house is mine again. The company thrives under its new name. People talk about slow justice as if it's inevitable. I don't believe that. Justice isn't slow, it's patient and exacting. When it arrives, it doesn't knock. It drives in like a quiet truck, a man in a wheelchair at the wheel, who has learned how to stand in the only way that mattered.